Welcome back to Dickin' Around Outdoors. Now, a few weeks ago, we did a video called What to Know Before You Buy the Omnia Oven. And our conclusion in that video was that the Omnia Oven always burns the food. Now, I'm not sure if that generated the most comments of any video that I've ever done, but it sure did generate a lot. And those videos were primarily in two camps. The first one telling me that I had no idea what I was doing and that the Omnia Oven is the best thing since sliced bread. And the second was that people were thanking me for actually showing the Omnia Oven experience that they had. And let me tell you why I think that is. So if you'll come around here, let me show you the Omnia Oven. When you order the Omnia Oven, this is what you get. You get a lid, you get a very thin aluminum cooking vessel, and you get a stainless steel base plate. And those three items are the Omnia Oven. And when I tested that, not one stove that I had would cook things correctly. It would burn everything on the bottom or anywhere that the food was touching the aluminum cooking vessel. And I think that's because that aluminum vessel is extremely thin, and the heat from my stoves, and again, I'm talking every stove I have, would not get low enough to dissipate the heat enough that it didn't get the aluminum too hot before things were done. Some of the comments that I got were, well, you know, in order to use the Omnia Oven correctly, you need to use the rack and the aluminum insert. Now, both of these are optional accessories. So when you buy your Omnia Oven, you don't get those. But I tend to not want to buy a cooking vessel that only works if I buy optional accessories. The vessel should work as it's sold the first time. But I do have those options, and I gave them a shot in my second video called Omnia Oven Hacks. Do they work? Those accessories are a rack that simply fits in the oven over the cone and raises things off the bottom. So Omnia Oven was trying to solve that issue. And a silicone insert that goes in the oven, and a lot of the comments said, put that silicone insert on the rack in the oven, and that's how you solve the problem. So everyone that was telling me how to solve the problem implicitly was agreeing with me that there was a problem with the Omnia Oven as it sat. Having said that, I think I found a solution that's going to make a lot of disgruntled Omnia Oven owners want to give those ovens another shot, and I think it's going to help them cook better in their Omnia Ovens, or actually cook edible food in their Omnia Ovens. And what am I talking about? It's a simple, cheap little gadget. I'm going to link it below, but let me show you what it is. I'm talking about this simple little device. I'm going to link it below in the comments. It is called a flame tamer. All this is designed to do is distribute and temper the heat coming from your stove into your cooking vessel. This particular one that I like for this oven has a blank in the middle, and I think that helps from heat blasting through the center and overheating the cone. And it's got a bunch of perforations around the inside that just temper the heat, spread it around a little bit, and give a gentler, more even heat to this Omnia Oven. So, let me show you why I think this is the solution. We actually got to camp last night, and we did our first cook. It came out really well. I'm going to show you that. But here in Illinois, it was 93 degrees, and we had a 103 degree heat index, and honestly, it was miserable. I was sweating, as you'll see in the video. I wasn't enjoying myself, but we got a great cook. But we did decide that we were going to finish the testing in the morning, where it's nice and cool out this morning. It's a beautiful morning. And we're gonna finish up, we're gonna cook some cornbread, and then we're gonna make a breakfast casserole. And we're gonna check and see if this solution of mine works in all instances. So anyway, let's get to that video that we took last night. And while you're enjoying watching last night's biscuit cook, we're gonna go ahead and mix the cornbread up and get it ready to go. So by using this flame tamer, what that does is it lowers the heat, or I should say it doesn't lower it, it spreads it out. And it makes it more gentle when it hits the oven, so you don't have that concentrated heat banging against that base. It spreads it out, it lets it evenly go into the oven, doesn't blow a bunch of direct heat up through the center, and allows things to cook better. So let's cook some croissants, let's see how they come out. And what I found in my testing is that you don't need to raise the silicone insert using that rack. In fact, that gave me unbrowned bottoms. It actually sort of really did the opposite of what I wanted it to do. But I did find that when you put the silicone insert in and use a flame tamer, that silicone insert seemed to give just enough buffer against that heat hitting that thin aluminum cooking vessel that things browned but didn't burn before the top got done. So let's cook these croissants and see how it comes out. So if you saw my other videos, we tried to turn this stove down as low as it would possibly go, and it still burned things. So we're gonna use this not as low as it can go, we're actually gonna turn it up a little bit. We're gonna put the flame tamer on it, and then as it says in the instructions, we're gonna heat the base plate for about 5 minutes. And while that's heating, we're gonna go ahead and get the croissants in the cooking vessel on the silicone insert. We're gonna go ahead and put this on. It says 9 to 12 minutes, so we're gonna check these. Usually takes longer in the Omnia, so we're gonna check these at 12 minutes and see how they look. We're 28 minutes in. The tops are starting to look pretty brown. So that's the magic with this thing, or that's the trick with this. In order to let the tops get brown, often it burns the bottom. So we're gonna get these off the fire. We're gonna call these done, and then we'll see what the bottom looks like. I'm hoping that our flame tamer did its magic. Oh, there we go, magic. I think we could have gone a little bit longer, but I'm calling this really good. I've never seen the bottom on anything cooked in this Omnia oven browned that well. Candidly, this did the trick. I would have let these go a little bit longer to brown the top, but I will tell you, I was nervous about the bottom. But looking at this, I could have gone longer. So this did the trick with the croissants. I can't wait to see what it does with cornbread and casserole. But for now, I'm calling this a success. I didn't have the fire cranked up high, but it definitely was not low either. I would call it maybe medium low, and I think it's done the trick. So anyway, first test, I'm giving it a thumbs up. All right, we have got the base plate preheated. The corn muffin mix has set for about 4 minutes to rise. Today we're just using Jiffy cornbread. This is one of our standard campsite fares. So we're gonna get this on. It's supposed to take 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to check this in 20, because one thing with the Omnia, it always seems to take longer than it says on the box. Well, before we start, let me actually show you this. Camera lady, if you can come in. So this is all you have to do to set this up. You put the flame tamer on the burner, then you put the base plate on the flame tamer. Super easy. So now we're just gonna get this on and put the lid on and come back and check it in 20 minutes. In the meantime, we're gonna go enjoy our coffee. We're at 40 minutes. The knife is coming out clean. I think this cornbread is done. So we're gonna take it off because we don't wanna burn the bottom, but it is done. It's not as pretty as it would have been in a cast iron Dutch oven, but as long as the bottom's not burnt and the cornbread is done, I'm gonna be happy. Remember, this is hot. There is no handle, so make sure you have some gloves or something when you're moving it. Okay, let's see. Another interesting thing with the Omnia is its shape. Makes it a little more difficult to cut, but let's see what we have here. Oh my gosh, we have browning without burning. I just have to get it out of there. But as you can see, we don't have any burned on this cornbread. So it's just a matter of getting it out. I think we could have let this go longer again. I think that it's done, but I think we could have let it go longer to let the top brown. So test number 2 is a plus. Now we're going to enjoy some cornbread. So our final test of the Omnia Oven is actually going to be a hybrid test. We're going to saute in the aluminum pan. Then we're going to layer the casserole into the silicone insert. And we're going to make a chili relleno casserole, which will be phenomenal for breakfast or dinner. So let's just get this onion chopped up. One of the things that we did learn from the test, I think, on the cornbread is that you do need to grease the silicone insert in some form or fashion, whether it's Pam or olive oil or whatever you prefer to use. And I think I could have used higher heat. I think that we went for 40 minutes. We didn't burn anything, but we also didn't get the top browned. So I think we could have used a little higher heat even while we were utilizing that flame tamer to keep it from burning. So I think that's one of the takeaways. We're going to see how this works. But this is going to be an interesting one because we are going to saute in the aluminum pan before we actually bake. So this is going to be a test of the versatility of this Omnia Oven. The first step for our chili relleno casserole is we are going to brown as best we can in this Omnia a pound of hamburger and half of an onion. As you can see, we lose a tremendous amount of heat coming up through that center, but I'm hoping that we generate enough heat that we can get this browned. Then we're going to layer it into the silicone and we're going to go ahead and bake the casserole. But first steps first. And again, why am I trying this recipe? Because my goal with the Omnia Oven and an upcoming Coleman oven review is that I'm looking for something to replace my cast iron Dutch oven when there's a fire ban. Otherwise, I would be cooking all of this in a cast iron Dutch oven, which I think is the preeminent way to bake when you're in the outdoors. So anyway, I want to make sure that I can brown beef and onions. I've done it before. I want to do it for this recipe. And then I want to bake a casserole to make this hybrid. So that's what we're doing here. Let's get this all browned up and then I'll put the casserole together. All right, our hamburger's done. Just remember, when you're sauteing in the Omnia, when you're browning hamburger or sauteing vegetables, the lid has to be on because you lose so much heat through that center cone if you don't have the lid on. And always make sure that you have a pair of pot grippers of some sort. These are the grippers from our Banks Fry Bake pans, but any pot gripper will work so that when you stir the pan, you're able to hold it with the grippers. So we're just going to get this off the fire. We're going to start assembling our casserole, and in the meantime, we're going to put the flame tamer back on the stove, put the base of the Omnia on the flame tamer, let it continue to stay warm because we don't want it too hot when we're baking. Sauteing's over, now we're going to bake, which means we need the flame tamer. All right, so to assemble this chili relleno casserole, we've got 2 cans of green chilies chopped. So if 1 can goes in, I did not drain this. So 1 can goes in and just gets smoothed around the bottom. That was wishful thinking, getting this spoon into that can. And we're just going to spread these around the bottom. And on top of that goes what I'm guessing is going to be about 1.5 cups of cheese. I don't have it measured out. Just get our meat and layer that all around it. And okay, at this point we have the meat mixture in. We're going to go ahead and clean our insert, get the liquid out of it. We're going to put this back in the insert before we add the rest of the ingredients so it's easier to handle. So let's get this cleaned. Now to finish this, we take our 2nd can of chilies and we just dump those over top again. We just dump the egg mixture. And as you can see, it goes in and it fills up all the cracks. It's going to be the glue that holds this chili relleno casserole together. So let's put this on the oven, see how it comes out. I wanted to show you, and I've mentioned how utterly thin this aluminum in this pan is. Now, it may help it heat. In fact, it probably helps it overheat, in my opinion. But I wanted to show you something on this just to give you an idea of how thin this is. And when you're using it and using pot grippers, you have to be ginger. So step in and let me show you. I hope that you can see this. Right here, there's a string of dents. And those dents came from the pot grippers I used in my previous test. They were just a normal set of pot grippers, and 2 spaces here and here where today's pot grippers actually dented the aluminum. Maybe you can see on the outside as well. So just using pot grippers on this pan has dented it. But you can't not use pot grippers. Maybe you could use heat gloves when you're stirring or sauteing. But it just is thin, and I think Omnia, it wouldn't kill you for the price that you charge for these things to actually use aluminum that's as thick as they use in aluminum frying pans for camping. So there's my Omnia gripe. Even though we've got a good result from using the flame tamer, we think it's the way to go, and we will be using this more because of it. Recommended cook time is 50 minutes. I did turn my heat up a little bit to give it a try. As I mentioned in the cornbread, I think I could have turned it up higher. And I did rotate the Omnia, but I didn't do it till way late in the cook. You may not be able to see it, but this table is not flat, so we're going downhill. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some funky shape inside there. But let's take a look. It says to insert a fork and see if it comes out clean with melted cheese in there. I'm not sure how that works, but let's have a look. Ooh, that looks good. And it looks done to me. Clean. Camera lady, what do you say?
Looks good.
You think it's done?
Smells delicious.
It does smell delicious. What do you think? Think it's done?
I think so.
Oh, we've given this a chance to cool down a bit. The grease that was floating on top has fallen back to the bottom a bit. Now, one thing, that was 95% ground beef. So I would use the leanest ground beef you could for this kind of recipe. Let's have a look. We're gonna dish some out. It looks great. And again, this was cooked in the recommended time. So I think that is a big win. But let's dish it out. See what the bottom looks like. Again, oddly shaped, and it looks great. There's no browning, there's no burning. I think we've cracked the Omnia code. I'm gonna link this flame tamer below. I'm also gonna try to find one and link it that doesn't have that blank in the middle, but I do think that blank helps. So maybe not having the blank in the middle would help things brown on top a little bit better. We're gonna try that, but for now, I'm gonna link these 2 below. So if you have an Omnia oven and you've just almost given up because it burns everything, you leave it in the basement, grab one of these flame tamers linked below, and I would bet that you discover the Omnia anew and you start to use it when you go camping. After all the tests are done, I think we've hit on the solution to how to stop the Omnia oven from burning everything when you cook it, regardless of what stove you're using. Now, it may take a little bit of time to tweak how much flame you need. As you saw us, we were turning it up a bit, and it actually used a higher flame than I was thinking it was going to, and still didn't burn. So that's a big plus. We have this great breakfast casserole in front of us. It cooked beautifully in the Omnia. The cornbread was done. I would have liked to have seen it a little bit browner, but it was done and it tasted great. And the biscuits yesterday, we actually probably didn't even need the fire on. It was hot enough to cook them. But they browned decently on the top without burning the bottom. So I think, again, I could have had a little higher fire. So I think this is the solution. I'm going to link flame tamers below, and I would definitely appreciate if you use those links if you're going to pick up a flame tamer. They do help the channel grow by giving us a pittance of a commission. Doesn't cost you any more, but it does help us. And if you like this content, please take a moment to hit the sub button in the lower right-hand corner. Give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and we'd love to hear you leave a comment on what you think of the content and the solution we have come up with for the Omnia oven. And as always, take care, and we'll see you outdoors.